Hello everyone! For the past couple of weeks, we have looked at nations that saw some changes in 1.29 patch. And today we shall conclude this series with Ming, as technically Ming saw the biggest change with the mandate mechanics. And we have beaten up Ming using every tag around: Oirat, Mongolia, Manchu, Korea, Chagatai, pirates even. And so it's only fitting that we give some time to Ming as well. This new patch has been all about causing Ming to not exist beyond the first 100 years or so. Actually, let me rephrase that. This new patch has been all about causing Ming to not exist beyond the first 100 years as an AI nation. Because Ming in the hands of a player is a completely different beast. Compared to prior patch, Ming is even stronger now for players. The biggest deterrent to playing Ming was the mandate loss from neighboring non-tributaries, which has been removed in this patch. And this also makes Ming one of the top nations to play for beginners. The only thing you need to know is how mandate works, and then you can do whatever you want in game. In this guide, we will look at the opening moves for Ming, because once you have navigated the first 80-ish years or so, you are set for flexing on everyone. At the start of the game, Ming is the strongest nation, both militarily and development-wise, and there is no immediate threat of any kind. The only issue we have is that the ruler sucks, and the heir sucks almost as much. Nothing we can do about it right now, but you should disinherit the heir as soon as possible. The good thing is that you can afford to get level 3 advisors from day 1, and that is amazing. Great monarch point generation, and you also get to tick up the meritocracy. So hire those level 3 advisors. You should get the national unrest guy for admin, and then you can promote him to level 3. Next, we will rival Ashikaga as they are the only eligible one. Then send our light ships to protect trade in Beijing, and you will notice that despite having level 3 advisors, we are still making money. Next, we will send a couple of army stacks to the south to suppress rebels there, and rest of the army goes to the north to fight Oirat, as they don't start as Ming's tributary. We will also make the ruler and the heir as generals. Now, if you don't know this, there is a new event called the Tumu Crisis that fires when we go to war against Oirat. So don't put your ruler or heir in charge of a weak army that might lose against the Oirat Horde army. That would be absolutely terrible. Just get another general to lead the main army. You can still use the ruler and heir for generals for sieges if they have a siege pip, but keep an eye on them and make sure you don't lose a battle with them in charge. One more thing you should do is change your tribute demand. At the start, get admin points from everyone, and if the tributary doesn't have enough dev to give monarch points, ask for some manpower, because we are going to need some manpower early on. And we are taking the admin points so we can get to the first idea group fast. You should keep changing the tributary demands depending on if you're lagging behind in a specific tech or when you're doing an idea group. You should also put one diplomat in improving relations with subjects. This one diplomat should be permanently assigned to this task, and later when we get one additional diplomat from the Celestial Reforms, we will assign 2 diplomats permanently to improve relations with all subject nations. Finally, when the armies are in place, we will declare on Oirat. This will start the Tumu Crisis event chain, saying, "My emperor, this is unwise." It really is, just don't lose a battle with your emperor in charge and you'll be fine. Slowly siege down everything and eventually you can make them a tributary. So that's one problem sorted, and now we don't have to worry about the north. Although we do have another non-tributary in Cochin, you can just make them a tributary as they will accept it. However, I like to take the one province from them as it's part of the Beijing state and the trade node. It's certainly something you don't need to do at all. However, this war will also give you a chance to make more tributaries in the north who don't border you if Cochin has an ally. Like in my game, they were allied to Zhangzhou and Yeren. Zhangzhou is already our tributary and we can make them a tributary again later, but we can also get a new tributary with Yeren. Yes, it will cost some diplo points, but it's fine. And we will take just one province from Cochin and make them a tributary and peace them out. Couple of things you should do while these wars are going on. You should stamp up to +1 as soon as possible, and you should also build a fort in this region as it lacks one. The reason we are doing this is to build prosperity. Having prosperity in our states is great. Not only does it give some nice modifiers, it also adds to the mandate. And keeping the mandate growth high is the key to successful early Ming game. The prosperity starts to build up when you are +1 stab, although our 111 king is not the best and it will take some time for the state to become prosperous. Soon it will be time to disinherit the heir because 112 stats are just terrible, and hope that you get a better heir. In my game I got a slightly better heir, not good enough, but it will have to do for now. Luckily my ruler died early and I had an amazing consort regent for 10 whole years. So this was my Ming in 1451. Alright, got a little beat up by Chagatai, but it doesn't matter. We are not going to care about what happens in the north. So let's talk about the strategy for playing Ming briefly. As Ming, you're obviously the strongest nation at the start and you can decide how you want to play. You can play tall and just go colonial and not worry about the rest of the world. You will be fine all game. But if you want to utilize the power of Ming and expand like you're supposed to, my advice is to start expanding in Burma and India region. The development in South Asia is just too good to ignore when compared to the northern provinces, which are really not worth the effort. So you should just lock in the tributaries in north, get new tributaries if a new nation is neighboring you there, and keep expanding in the south. The obvious way to start expansion is via Mong Mao here, who starts as a tributary, so we are going to cancel their tributary status. This means a 5-year truce. And once the truce is over, we are going to declare on Mong Mao. The expansion strategy here is a bit different compared to other nations. The idea is not to own all of Burma and all of India. That's not how you play Ming. What you should do is snake in that region. Get some provinces, get some vassals, and then make everyone else a tributary. You should always have more tributaries than owning provinces yourself. That is the key to expanding quickly. In Burma region, the fastest way to do this is by full annexing Ava. They start with a bunch of tributaries, and if you did not know this, if you full annex the overlord, all their tributaries become your tributaries, and that is what you want. So the aim with this war against Mong Mao is to either get a vassal or a province next to Ava as soon as possible. In my game, Mong Mao was allied to Mong Pai, so I could vassalize Mong Pai and then wait for them to get a claim on Ava. And I of course full annexed Mong Mao. In 1462, I had 100 mandate, and so it was time to pass the first reform. Passing a reform costs 70 mandate and 1 stab, so now we have 30 mandate, which means negative modifiers from having mandate below 50. You will lose some money, and you might have a couple of separatist rebels. You also get some negative modifiers to the army, but really that shouldn't stop you from taking on smaller nations. And so I declared on Ava next. Luckily their ally was getting beat up and wouldn't join this war, and so I full annexed Ava. You might see a lot of nations joining a coalition here, but all of them are going to become our tributary, so it does not matter. And this is the map after that war. So in just one war, we have almost all of Burma region. And now we can choose again if you want to expand through Kale or through Prom, and then cancel their tributary status. Wait 5 years for truce and then attack them. For now, we have more tributaries, and more tributaries means more mandate, which is the most important thing early game. And to get even more tributaries early, I think taking exploration ideas is important, because around this time you will also hit the colonial range to start colonizing the Philippines and Indonesia islands. What you can do now is send the colonists to an island, establish tributaries with neighbors, then recall colonists and abandon colony and send the colonists somewhere else and rinse and repeat. This way you can get a lot of tributaries in a very short time. And if you encounter someone who is refusing to become a tributary, you can always improve relations with them and make them a tributary. You can get everyone here as a tributary without fighting any wars. So this is what the new map looks like, and look at all those tributaries which we got for free. Also, colonizing Taiwan completes the mission, giving modifiers to faster colonizing. You should also colonize the Kuril Islands, as that gives access to Japan. I diplovassalized Ainu here, and the plan is to expand into Japan from here. While on the mainland, I attacked Tongu now that the truce was over, and I also co-belligerent Arakan, their ally, as the aim of this war is to get away into India. I took close to 100% war score provinces from this war, and again, you don't have to worry about AE here because your tributaries don't get any AE from you, and that's a very important thing to keep in mind. After that, in 1490, I had 100 mandate, and so it was time to pass the second reform. Now the mandate growth was a bit better, so we won't have low mandate for very long. After waiting for a few years, I decided to expand further into India. Orissa was the one neighboring me, and in my game, Bengal had ceased to exist as Orissa and Jaunpur took their provinces. So my plan was to attack Orissa, make tributaries of their little allies. Again, that cost some diplo points, but we have some monarch points to spare. And then I took just one province from Orissa and released Bengal as my vassal. And since Bengal has a lot of courts in the area, it would be super easy to expand quickly here. By the way, another one of my king died early and I got a consort regent again. A good one too. And she has the humane trait, which is a new leader trait in the current patch, and it gives plus 0.05 mandate growth, which is very helpful. After the truce was over, I came back to Orissa and declared a reconquest war. I took some Bengal cores back and I took one province for myself, which would get me a couple of new small neighbors who I can make tributaries of. In 1512, I had 100 mandate once more, and so it was time to pass the third reform. Although, the Age of Discovery was going to end in 5 months, which meant the new crisis of Ming Dynasty disaster would probably fire. It's a new disaster with the new patch where it starts ticking down if you have less than 50 mandate, and it's not Age of Discovery. This time, I would get back to 50 mandate fast enough, and the disaster did not fire. And so next, I attacked Jaunpur. Again, with the reconquest CB from my vassal, I took a few courts back and also took a few provinces for myself to border more nations. And so this is Ming in 1523. We have snaked our way into India, taking some provinces but mostly making tributaries. Finally, in 1528, it was time to pass the fourth reform as I had 100 mandate again, and this time the disaster would surely fire. When the disaster fires, you lose 2 stab, 35 mandate, and gain 5 corruption. It's pretty horrendous, but there's no avoiding it. You also get a lot of peasant rebels. Don't click on the disaster event yet and start making your way towards the rebel stacks and clean them up one by one. To end the disaster, you need to have no rebel armies and no rebel controlled provinces. And you also need 75 mandate, which is tough to get fast. Luckily, the event itself helps you there. One thing you need to make sure here is to not let the rebels siege down too much, because if they occupy 10 provinces in any of the 3 regions in China, bad events happen. Losing control of the south and the Shun rebellion events will fire, and that would be super bad for us. So just focus on taking care of all the rebels and make sure you're not fighting anyone when this disaster hits. The event chain will give you pulse events like this one where you get 5 mandate for some peasant rebels. Take that option every time. We need to get to 75 mandate soon. The unrest is also terrible at this point because the event gives plus 5 unrest and you get more unrest from low mandate. I even had a cruel ruler at this time, which was another plus 2 unrest. So watch out for those rebels and make sure they don't occupy too many provinces. The event also gives plus 20% tech costs, so don't tech up during this time either. Also max out your corruption slider in the economy tab. We need to get rid of the 5 corruption too. And so after fighting multiple peasant rebels, I finally got to 75 mandate in 9 years. That's a long time where you cannot fight anyone and you just have to speed 5 through it. Once the event is done, you get plus 1 stab and plus 20 mandate, which brings us to 95 mandate. So I just decided to pass the final reform right then. The mandate goes back down, but the disaster only fires once. So now it's just regular low mandate that will climb up eventually. After waiting a few more years for mandate to tick back up, it was time to resume our expansion. So I attacked Andhra next, who were allied to Vijayanagar. I took all the money from Vijayanagar and then I took some coastal provinces from Andhra so I could border Vijayanagar for the next war. And then it was Jaunpur's time again. When I saw their allies won't join the war, I annulled their alliance with Timurids, who were massive in my game. Then I took more provinces, including forts, so I could border more nations. And this is Ming in 1551. After the truce with Vijayanagar was over, I declared on them. They had few minor allies, nothing a mighty Ming couldn't handle. From them, I took more coastal provinces and then released a new vassal in Madurai who has a lot of cores in the region. And that's where I am right now in game. You can just keep expanding that way. Take some provinces, border more nations, make tributaries, release vassals, reconquest, and keep expanding. You will just have to look at the map in your game and decide how to proceed next. Prioritizing expansion in India is important though. Let's briefly talk about ideas. I opened with exploration because getting those colonies as early as possible is important, as that means you can get more tributaries and get more mandate, which is super important early on. You can also explore and discover North America before 1500, and that means you have a very good chance of spawning colonialism, which is huge. Yes, it is RNG dependent, and you might still not get it, but if you do, you have a great advantage and you set Europe back a bit. Second idea I took was innovative. Innovative is always good to take early game if you can. And with Ming, when you don't have any immediate threats and you have a lot of monarch point generation, you should definitely take innovative. After completing innovative ideas in 1508, I had level 5 advisor that cost 7.5 ducats a month. He was a half price advisor, yes, but even without it, I had 54% advisor cost discount. And you can stack that further when you get some policies. Not that you need to, as you have enough money to run level 5 advisors all game from here on. After that, I think taking a couple of military ideas is important, as Eastern units aren't super strong. I would go with quality and offensive here because both those idea groups have some great policies with innovative. Since Confucian has a different mechanic, I thought I would mention here it as well. With Confucian, you can harmonize religions and make them act like true faith religions, plus you get some extra modifiers. While harmonizing, the harmony goes down though, and low harmony is not good. At 0 harmony, you get -3 tolerance of true faith and -2 yearly meritocracy, which is very, very bad. The negative tolerance of true faith means a lot of unrest and rebels everywhere. And if meritocracy goes down, the advisor costs go up. And then you might not be able to afford high-level advisors, which brings down meritocracy even further. It's a vicious cycle. And it's compounded further when you have low mandate after passing a reform. So my advice for beginners is to start harmonizing only when you are done with reforms, just to be on the safe side. After you have passed the final reform, start harmonizing the pagan group first. You should harmonize Vajrayana, Mahayana, and Shinto last, as they are the heretic religions. You get +2 tolerance of heretics from being Confucian, and additionally there's an event Neo-Confucianism which gives an extra +2 tolerance, which means in heretic provinces, now you get -2 unrest, which is really good. So I would prioritize pagan group to harmonize first, and then go dharmic as we are expanding in India, and then Muslim group. And that's the end of this short guide on playing Ming. The new Ming is stronger and even easier for newer players, and I said this in my last Ming video. Ming is the easiest nation to do world conquest with, and now it's even easier. Seriously, forget about Ottomans and Castile, take Ming on a ride and see how easy it is. Once you have passed all reforms, you don't need to worry about the mandate, and that makes the game even easier. For late game, once you have most of the world in tributaries, you can cancel a couple of tributaries at a time and then declare on them once the truce is over and full annex them in one war. It's really easy because you will have massive armies by then, and your tributaries don't get any AE, so there's really nothing stopping you. So get on that Ming train and let us know how your game is going in comments. I hope this little guide helps out newer players. If you have any questions, let me know in comments as well, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. You are watching a Radiator's Guide. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you all in the next one.